go ahead and call the meeting to order because Lacey said she'd be a few minutes late, but she is coming, and it does look like we have a forum. So this is the December 18th, 2020 meeting. It's our last meeting of the year for the Shelby Historic Preservation Commission, and I'll do roll call. Lisa Bissett is coming. Pat Carlisle.
Here.
I'm here. Mary Durkin.
Here.
Joe Thompson.
Present.
Mayor Shag. Joe Geis.
Here.
And Jessica Griffin.
I'm here, just getting my coffee.
All righty. So we do have a quorum, and we'll announce Lacey when she logs on. Joe, do we have any public comments that have been submitted?
I have not heard any.
Okay. Additions or changes to the order of the agenda. I would like to make one change, number 3 and 4, the COA application and the review of the nomination for a locally designated landmark. I would like to move up before number 1 so that we can hear from our guest, Randy Samsel, and to be able to allow him to, if he needs to go and take care of other business, he's free to leave at that point. So any comments on that? Any other changes to the agenda? Okay. Let's see. Motion to approve the November 20th, 2020 digital and written minutes.
I have a question. Pat, in that designation report, did you really, what does that dash Mr. mean?
I'm sorry. Right before, you mean right after it says designation report?
It says, it should be useful to and written for building owners explaining what the Historical Preservation Commission can, and then there's a dash Mr. To the owner. Is that an acronym that I don't know?
It should have been deleted.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
something, there was another sentence in there, and then I changed the sentence to make more sense, and I didn't get that part out of there. Sorry. It should be.
I just was, I thought, maybe it's something I don't understand.
No, it isn't. No, it's me, dear. Thank you very much for catching it.
I've got 2 more and they're minor. At the end of that paragraph, Mrs. Drain and Mrs. Bissett shared.
Morning.
Yes, past tense. Got it.
Okay. And
There's another, in that paragraph, the January 22, 2021 public hearing, it should be after most people heard of Mary Catholic Church to be added, ED. I think.
Okay, wait a minute. I didn't, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so Marvin will add, to be ed, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Got it.
okay. Motion to approve with corrections.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Mary Durkin. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you,
No.
Joe. Joe Thompson. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right, motion carries. Number 5, under the first part, recognizing the end of the term for Joe Thompson. This is so bittersweet for me. I
Here
was
he
told,
comes.
yeah, I was told the other day that he does not want to seek another term, and I can understand that. 5 years is a long time to serve on a commission, and he's actually served probably longer than that. Have we been around that long? I guess. Anyway, he's
Well, he's been there since our very, very first meeting.
very first meeting, so he's been through everything. He's been through our certified local government paperwork and approval, and he's been through the historic preservation plan, through all of that. And so I've always said that Joe's my barometer. He I watched him a lot during meetings, and I would know whether to push an issue or whether to just shut up. And if I kept talking, I would look at Joe and he would normally say, I move to do this. And then I knew, okay, we gotta move on this. So he definitely has been my barometer. And Joe, I do promise you that that we will be meeting with all of our property owners at some point. So your idea of having monthly breakfast meetings, I have that on the agenda. We'll stay with that. We'll keep that on our agenda and do that at some point, probably when we get the design guidelines underway and approved. So, and I hope I can call on you too, if we ever get back in the fire department, to digitize their scrapbooks. I'd love to have you be a part of that process too. So
I'm anxious.
good. Do you have any parting words for us?
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Surprised he didn't move to adjourn.
That is exactly what he's known for. He's quick to let us know when it's time to quit. I see that Steve Shag has joined us. Morning, Steve.
Yeah, good
Yes.
morning. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Did Lacey join us yet?
No.
I can't see everybody. Okay. All right.
Chairman Drain.
Yes.
Here comes Lacey.
Pardon?
Here comes Lacey.
Good. Okay.
I'll wait till she gets in and then I'll say what I would like to ask the chairman.
Oh, okay. So we've got Lacey Bissett joining us now. There she is. And Lacey, we've gone through the first 5 items under guests. And just thank Joe Thompson for his time on the commission. And we've approved the digital minutes with a few corrections, and we'll get those to you. So
Okay, thanks. Apologies for being late.
that's all right.
Yeah,
And
Chairman?
Pat
Chairman?
had, yeah.
Yeah, I would like to encourage recommend, whatever word you want to use for it, that there be a letter of appreciation from our Mayor Shag and from the commission to Joe Thompson for having been there from day one and for having been, as you say, Christine, a barometer. He's kept us on an even keel. He really has. He kept us from going too far left, too far right, too far up, too far down. He's kept us where we needed to be. And he always asked for that clarity. Are we staying where we're supposed to be? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And I appreciated that very much when I was chair. And I know that Christine has appreciated that. So I would like a letter of appreciation sent to Joe from the city and from the commission, thanking him for being that barometer, for being the person who kept us on task.
Happy to do that.
Yes, thank you. We can very definitely do that. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Okay, so moving on to item 3 on our agenda that we moved up. We have a certificate of appropriateness application for the Dick's Furniture Building at 62 West Main Street. Mr. Randy Sampsell is here with us today in case you have any questions. Basically, there were 4 different things that he is looking to do with the building. One of them is the front door removal and to put a new door in, a wooden door. One is roof repairs, continued tuck pointing of the brick on the outside of the building, which will probably occur in a few months, as from what he's told me. And then a window repair of an upstairs window that was unsafe, and so they took it out. So does anyone have any questions, or does Mr. Sampson want to expand on any of that?
The door is not a replacement. It was the existing door. We removed the aluminum glass door and just centered the original door.
Yes, and I have noticed that. I took a good look at it the other day. It's nicely done. And the two side lights that you put in next to it in order to fill the space certainly were well done. And I'm glad that you saved that door. I remember that door for as long as I can remember. So that goes back at least 50 plus years. So I remember that door. I do have a question about the tuck pointing.
Mhm.
Who are you having do that? Who's the,
Oakstone,
okay, all right. Are they the ones who did the earlier tuck pointing? Because I know some has happened before.
we did, we've done 2 tuck pointing projects. One
Mhm.
was the back wall, which Oakstone did. And then the second round, we did the lower part of the east wall,
Mhm.
which got hit with a lot of salt.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of deterioration there. We had a mason out of Galleon do that one. And we're back to Oakstone on the upper section of that.
Good, good. I appreciate that. And who's going to be doing the repair of the window that you had to take out? I'm so glad that you're saving that original window. Who are you having do that repair?
We are looking for someone. We want the original windows kept on the building.
Yes.
So we're looking for someone to actually rebuild that window.
Okay, good, good. I appreciate that. I know it's one of the things that I very much appreciated in all the buildings downtown. Yours has maintained its windows, which are very historic and beautifully maintained, but they are obviously older and they do need help from time to time. This one was a bottom sash that went bad. So I really do appreciate that.
Once we find a suitable repair person, because what's happening is the pins in the bottom of that sash are, the holes around them are starting to rot out.
Mhm.
So that sash is falling out and it exposes the glass to be able to fall out.
Oh, yeah.
So we're looking for someone to rebuild that, and we're just gonna continually go through each window and have each one pulled, looked at and repaired if necessary and reinstalled.
Mhm. And at some point down the road, you might want to consider the coverings for these windows, for lack of a better term, a storm window, that some of the individuals that do continually this kind of repair work can also build a storm window that is suitable and covers these older windows and actually saves them for many, many, many more years. There are some out there that are like that. We haven't got one at the tip of my fingertip that I can name for you, but there are these storm windows, and it would also improve the climate probably inside the building in terms of making the building warmer.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that everything is visible, so the storm window doesn't cover up any of the detail.
It won't. That's these experts that are doing these things are making these insets so that you cannot hardly tell that it is there. It's amazing what they're doing. I've seen some work on some other buildings like that, and it's amazing what they're doing.
Yeah, if you run across the information, you could.
Yeah, I'll look for it again. It comes up from the National Preservation Group. Yeah.
Okay, just send that to Chris because she's in contact with me.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
Good, and that's probably something that we would talk about in our design guideline discussions
Yes.
too.
Yes. And I have a question about the front of the application. We do know that it's on the National Register and it has an ID number, and that was not filled in. It says no, but it's yes, this is on the National Register. So when we're looking at these apps when they first come in, we need to inform the owners that yes, this is a National Register, on the National Register, and fill in that number. Chris, did you happen to check to see if this building is on the Ohio History Inventory?
Yes, when I sent all of you the, well, actually, I think Randy sent it to everyone to begin with. And when I commented to everyone, it is on the National Register, and I gave the number, and it's also on the Ohio historical inventory, and I gave the number for that too.
It was
So
in an email? Oh, I'm sorry, I must have missed it.
it was in an earlier email, and then I didn't resend that email because it didn't have his attachments, but I sent,
Okay.
I resent with the
Yeah.
attachments yesterday. So,
Thank you,
yeah.
thank you, because I knew these numbers should be on this application.
okay, I'll go ahead and fill them in since I have the original.
But you have the original, good.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I'll fill that. Well, actually, yeah, I have a printout of the original. Yeah. So,
okay, well, I'm just saying, I just knew that those numbers existed, and I just wanted to make certain that this copy I have doesn't have one.
Yeah.
And the city ordinance, Randy, have you had a chance to read that city ordinance since you made this application? Did you go to the city ordinances and read chapter 14?
Actually, Joe sent that to me.
Okay, so you do have it now, so you are familiar with it, you have it.
Yes, but it
That's
states
crucial
that
you have
it's, it states that it's exterior only.
The
So I
ordinance-
don't know if that means that we don't have to worry about work we're doing inside.
I don't know where in the ordinance it says exterior only.
Right in the first couple paragraphs.
I read that too, and I think that we as a commission need to revisit that part of the ordinance, because if you look at the Secretary of Interior standards, it very definitely does talk about exterior and interior and the site. So, property around the site, I mean, it even gets into, bushes and trees and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
I know that. I know
Yeah.
that. When that ordinance was written, it was basically lifted from, I believe, Oberlin, and then fine-tuned, and it was sent to SHPO, and SHPO sent it back with that wording in there. So we need to question that, whether or not we are indeed, and we've had that question on our table many times about whether we are exterior only, or do we work with interior things as the Secretary of Interior does. Okay, I'm getting so that I'm looking at these applications more carefully, trying to make certain that we fill them out and we've got the kind of documented evidence with them that we're supposed to have. Because eventually this stuff that goes into an archive, and if somebody ever goes back to look, they need to know, did we set a precedent of overlooking something or not filling something in? What was the situation? So we have to be very detailed with these things.
One thing also, Randy, if you would talk about the door in the front was actually a project of Pioneer. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, we use Pioneer's construction department. Contacts us every year and asks if we have any projects they could use for their lab. And this year they had, obviously they haven't been there very much, but they contacted me, and when they were inside, we had had an arch removed because the brick was deteriorating and it was starting to come down. It was a 1.5 foot wall that went clear to the ceiling, and we had that taken down, but we wanted to put an archway back in that emulated the original archway. So I was going to have them work on that. And while they were there, they said, oh, we'd like a door project. So that's how the door happened. So I said, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool community impact on this too. So
Yeah.
An educational impact. And I also talked to Randy at some point, since those windows do need to be restored, that maybe we have a window workshop at some point, and he's interested in helping us host that. So that could be down the road too, where we show other property owners how to restore their historic windows. So
Yeah,
appreciate
Chris also put me in contact with someone from the Historical Society that actually repairs windows. I have not made that contact yet, but I appreciate that.
Okay, good.
He's
I
at,
have one other question. I'm sorry. I have one other question.
Sure, go ahead.
The rubber roof, do you have any idea how old the rubber roof is? How long that's been up there?
Yeah, that roof was replaced after the fire.
That's what I assumed, because I knew the fire went through the roof. Okay. All right, so it was replaced after the fire, and the fire was the last fire. There's been more than one fire in that building.
Was
The
it
last-
1994 or something?
Yeah, I think 1994 or 95, I was gonna guess one of those dates.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and it was, what they did was they installed a rubber roof that was floating, wasn't glued down. So the wind, that wind that we had a while back here, caught it and ripped it.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, well, that's one of the hazards of rubber roofs. Okay. All right.
Okay,
Now the next step, I think I'm going to use you guys for, is we have done a complete write-up on that building to obtain tax incentives for air rights. And I can explain all that when we submit the paperwork to you, but we've already got that done. The only thing it does for us is we can sell those tax incentives. So we could sell that to further fund repairing the building.
Yes, yes.
I have reservations about extending to the interior. We've spent 5 years and really haven't tied the exteriors up yet. While we want to be careful with interiors, I can see that's a 10-year project and it shouldn't hold up the exteriors.
right. I don't think there's anything that we're discussing on the interior with this certificate of appropriateness. Is that correct? It's all
Correct.
exterior work. Yeah.
Yes.
I would consider the windows to be exterior and yeah. Thank you, Joe. Point noted on that. We do need to think very seriously about interior and how much we would put in our design guidelines if you know, and it's going to probably take a change to the ordinance too. So, okay. Any other comments, questions on the certificate of appropriateness?
I just wanted to clarify, I apologize because Oakstone, they kind of do specialize in historic masonry. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So we feel confident that the mortar being used is going to be compatible with the brick. That would be my main concern there. But if they're familiar with it, then it should be good.
We had Oakstone do some work down on Washington Street, the old EUB church built in 1899. That was probably done, I would say, 30 to 35 years ago, and everything they tuck pointed is still intact.
Good, thank you. Do we have a motion done to approve the certificate of appropriateness?
So moved.
Thank you, Joe. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you. Pat, did you get that? Joe,
Yes,
moved
ma'am.
to Mary Top. Okay. All in favor, signal aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Randy. The second thing we want to talk about is a locally designated historic landmark for the Shelby Mutual building on 19 Mansfield Avenue. When I was talking to Randy, I said, you know, are you interested in having this property put on the on our locally designated list? And he was amenable. There's quite a bit of history with the Shelby Mutual Insurance Company, as you know. We tried to give you some of that history to put with this nomination, but the file was too big when Randy tried to send it. So if you maybe want to paraphrase some of the history, Randy, that'd be great. They've done extensive history on that building and on the company as a whole.
Is there a point in time when I can have that history, because I really need it back for the archives?
Yeah, and I'm going
Or
to,
a summary of some kind.
yeah, and I'm going to show you a couple pages of it here
Okay,
today.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, originally, back in the early, like it was 2004, we had submitted to obtain this status for that building. Because once it's got the status, we can go ahead and do the air rights for that building also. At that time, it was built in 1951. So you have to have 50 years. But unbeknownst to me, when we did the whole write-up and submitted it, it was only 55 years old. So they came back and they said, well, it's only 4 years in to qualifying. So they didn't accept it. So now we're 20 some years into that. So I think it's got a better chance. Plus, with you guys being behind it at that time, I don't think you guys were a
No.
functioning group.
Mhm.
So we were on our own trying to get past the first step, which then allows us to do the other steps. And what you're going to do is get us into that first step.
Who did you make that submission to?
The Ohio Historical Society.
Which
We met with all
has become SHPO. Okay.
the same people that at that time were doing downtown Galleon. They did the old inn on the square.
Mhm.
And so those were the people that we were working with.
Okay.
I
so
can
you're
try to
the
get
Ohio
names,
Historic
but
Society,
I don't remember who.
which would have been the Ohio Historic Inventory people. Okay.
And I would imagine there's a whole new group there now, so,
Yeah. That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
the same people.
yeah.
Mhm.
But because you're allowed to use your designations, I guess, is for lack of a
Recommendation
better,
for designation.
yeah, it's going to, should make this process easier.
Okay.
What I couldn't send, we've got our submittal. I haven't found it yet, but I did find the research that we had done. So I'm going to show you. Now, do you have to allow me to, or can I just share my screen? Who's
Go
in
ahead
charge?
and try here. I don't know.
Let me see if I can, Joe. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you have to relinquish. Yeah, there we go. Oh, you've got, Joe, you've disabled PowerPoint.
How about now? I just changed it to
Okay.
multiple people.
Okay, there we go. Okay, this is the document we use to do our write-up. And it actually, it was like 76 meg, so I couldn't get it across to you. But it goes through the entire history of where the Shelby Mutual started. It was actually a fire in its originality. So it was a fire insurance company. So we've got all the data on the amounts of funds that were put out, who was responsible for it, and the progression. This is, I believe, is the Bowman building, is that where First National was?
No, that's where BP station is,
Okay.
the old opera house.
Okay, it was originally located in the upstairs of this when it was founded. It then moved to the second floor of the Dix building. So from there, this was some of the people they were insuring. That's a pictures from the old City Hall. The original, it was a plate glass insurance company. Okay, this was in 1930, was just after that building had been completed. So that was the next step for them. They relocated to this building. Okay, did you know they were located in the old, this was the police department, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
This was a groundbreaking of the city hall that was torn down. And this was the setting the cornerstone at the one that's at 19 Mansfield Avenue. So that was the progression, and this document that we were able to find actually takes it from beginning to end, tells you all the steps, all the funds that were raised, who were the owners, so it's a great document. So it gave us a lot of information to make our application for putting it on the historical register. So yeah, you're welcome to it. I just scanned everything and put it in a file so I could send it to you guys, but it just turned out it was too big. Once we're registered, then we'll go through the process again of what we're doing with the air rights that we're doing for the Dix building. What the air rights are is you do a complete architectural study and design to go up with your building. We only went up, I think you're allowed 32 floors. We only went up 16 floors for the Dix building. And we're going to go up all 32 floors for 19 Mansfield Avenue. That there's a value then, a cost that's put on that, and then a value, a return on what you could rent that building for. That determines what the incentive values are, because what you're doing is you're selling to them the air rights and saying, I will not do this. So they're paying you in tax incentives to not do that. So at that point, you could never go up with those buildings. They have to stay the same height they are now. Once you've done that, then there are companies like Sherwin-Williams who will buy the tax incentives. It's at a reduced rate, obviously, because they need to make money on being able to buy the tax deductions. But, and at that point, you can use that to put back into the building to restore it. So that's what we're shooting for.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation too. I think that's a good brief explanation of air rights too. So thank you. Any discussion on moving this process forward to our public hearing next month? Okay. Can I have a motion to move the project forward to our public hearing?
So moved.
Thank you, Joe. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lacey. All in favor? Signify
Aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. So we will, Brandy, the process is we will move this nomination forward to a public hearing. That will be January 22nd, 2021. You'll be getting a notice in the mail within a few days. As soon as we approve the letter today, you'll be getting a notice about that public hearing. That's the next step. If we decide to move it forward to the city council, then the city council at their next meeting will, they make the final approval on placing it on as a locally designated historic landmark. So that's the process.
Once they're registered and we've made improvements, like we're working on the Dix building now, what, does it have to stay? Does it freeze the building in time once you've done improvements? It can't be changed after that, correct? Or can it?
I'm not sure what you mean by,
And I may be getting this confused with selling the rights to the envelope, because just like there's air rights, there's also envelope rights that you can sell, and it also allows you to take tax incentives on the things that you're doing. But one of the stipulations, I believe, is that once you've done that, it can't ever be changed after that. So if I put that door on, that we can't come back in 2 years and say, oh, you know, we'd like to go to this now. So does anyone know if that takes effect as we do improvements?
I think the only time that you're going to run into issues is if you get federal or state tax credits. The
Okay.
work that you do has to conform to the Secretary of Interior standards. And,
So that would be more of selling the envelope.
yeah, and
then you
that
would get
probably, that's probably a question to ask the State Historic Preservation Office, because they deal with all the tax credits, the state tax credits, and then they can help you with the federal ones too. But beyond that, I seem to remember that you can't do anything for 5 years, but that's something you better ask the state about.
Okay.
And Pat, do you
Because
have?
if that's the case, we want to make sure that we get it right the first time.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Pat or Joe Guys, yeah, I don't know either. So best to ask the state.
Okay.
We can give you Nathan Bevel has been working with us quite a bit, and he would probably be a good one. I can get you his contact information. If I haven't given it to you already, I'll make sure you have it.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Is that it for me then?
Yeah, you're welcome to leave, or if you want to stay for the meeting, that's fine too.
Maybe I'll not stay.
That's okay. You can always watch it. It's being recorded, so you can always watch it later
Okay,
on the City of Shelby website. So thanks so much.
thank you very
Best
much.
wishes, Randy.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to number 1. Review the draft of the certified local government grant. I hope you had a chance to read through it. I sent this also to Brian Crum yesterday and to Joe Geis for some additional input. And I think the one thing that we were looking at, well, let me back up a little bit. I asked SHPO, typically how much is it going to cost to have, one of these projects done? And they said somewhere between 20 and 25,000. And so that's why I just said 22,000, because I remember last time we said 20,000 and we went over it was less than 2,000, but we did go over the grant amount. So I kind of wanted to make sure that that didn't happen again this year and to give a little bit more leeway for, bids from contractors. But, talking with Joe and with Brian, I also realized that we didn't show any of the match last time. We have Joe Geis's time and, and all of the paperwork and everything that goes along with these types of grants. And then, last time we put in, we totally rewrote the history. And I really think that we are probably going to have more input this time too, just in finding local, historic photos and resources that we want to be able to put in this book and, that kind of thing. So I think that we need to put a dollar amount on our volunteer time too, as a match. It's not required to have a match. The design guidelines can be funded at 100%. But, we don't have to provide a 60-40 match, but I think we should show some of our time this time. That could bump it up to, the total amount to 25,000 or more, which might look better to potential grant makers. But, and then Joe, you mentioned something about possibly that maybe we should ask for 25,000.
No, I was just saying that I think it'd be very reasonable to ask council for the $3,000 to get it up to the 25. Then that way, like you said, we got some skin in the game. It looks better. That you're asking, we've got some money into it. So I don't think that's unreasonable.
Okay. So you're thinking cash, not just,
Well, if you put cash on there and if you want to use your donated time, and that's just less money that would come out of the city, but.
Thoughts on that? Should we bump the amount up to 25,000? We're going to have to go through Brian, I think, so we
I would just advise you to ask for, if you don't use it all, great. But that way you have your choice of consultants so that you can pick the best one as opposed to the one that you can afford.
That's a very good point, because we only had two companies that answered the RFP last time, and it was not very competitive. So I think you're right on that one. All right, so consensus, should we bump it up to 25,000?
I think easily 25,000,
Okay.
easily. Because I know that last time we didn't get what we asked for.
Yeah.
They cut us back, and I think that'll happen again. I can't see the federal government going, yay, state, you can have all the money you want. So I really think that'll happen again. It is somewhat competitive, even though it's supposedly 100% reimbursement. We may not get what we asked for. So I don't have a problem with padding it a little bit, none whatsoever. And the last time our two people who came to us, their pricing was very far apart, like $12,000 difference in pricing.
Yeah, it was. So I will bump the cash amount up to 25,000, and then I'll get with Joe to figure out how we would put his time in, and how we would figure some volunteer time in there too. So it actually would be probably, the total amount would be more than 25,000 by the time we're done. It could be probably 30,000 or more, I'm not sure. But and then I'll talk to Brian again and give him a heads up that we're looking at that. All right. Any other questions about the verbiage or anything like that in the grant timeline?
Timeline always gets adjusted. We're gonna run into something that slows us down. We did that with the other one. And we just go back to SHPO and we say, hey, we've missed it. A couple of times it was SHPO that held us up last time. We were way late approving something. So yeah, the timeline is a guesstimate, and your guess is pretty good, but it's fluid. It's a fluid thing.
This takes us, this is about 16, I don't know if you totaled it up or not, but it's about a 16-month grant. So a little bit over a year. It's well within the timeline. I think it takes us to maybe June or July of 2022. And I think the grant is ends in September. So, it gives us a little bit of leeway if we need it. But and you're right, on SHPO, they said allowed 2 to 3 weeks. I put 3 weeks on everything because right now with COVID, they're all working at home. We heard that last month from Nathan. He was, they've all moved back home to work. So, so it takes them a little bit longer to get this done. Now, the next step is I'll refine this. The next step is to send it to SHPO so that they can review it, give us any other pointers. And then we will come back to the January meeting and then look at it one last time. And then we'll send it to City Council for approval to move forward. And then we'll submit it to SHPO. So, and I have all the deadlines listed on the agenda there, so we don't miss anything. So, okay, any other comments on that?
I think it's well written.
Thank you. Well, I kind of, it's not much different from the first one that we did on the historic preservation plan. So I just kind of took most of it. Now the actual items that we want to go in the book were taken from SHPO's own website, and Lacey and I worked on that last month. So we already had that, ready just to pop in. So actually took me very little time to do it. So Sunday afternoon, and that was about it. So thank you very much. Let's see, what do we have next? Rich History Alliance grant update. I went to the Richland Preservation Action Group meeting last month, and it was quite a lot of discussion about it. They have several different grants. They preferred that we wait. I mean, there's still money. They prefer that we wait until we have some semblance of knowing when we might get together. What we wanted to do was a brick repointing workshop. And, to be able to do that, we need to have people in person, and actually the workshop implies that you're going to actually work on something. So I probably need to wait, maybe March, maybe we'll be able to submit a grant application and do that. They have some other grants too that that sounded interesting that might be able to help us with some other projects that we're working on too. So it was a good conversation on that. Do you, Lacey, anything else you can think of to add?
No,
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay. All
Trying
right.
to think back, I think that was the gist of it, right?
I think so too.
So Chris and Lacey, are you regularly attending this Rich History Alliance group? Or the
When
both
they're
of you
meeting.
do that?
Yeah, when they're meeting.
I've
Yeah.
never had a chance to go, and I've always wanted to go, but I no longer get any info about when they meet.
Well, just to clarify, this was the Richland Preservation Action Group.
That's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Alan Wigton was is part of both. So.
Okay. Well, Al, I know Al. So okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you want to go, let me know, and I will not go that month so that we.
So are they meeting by Zoom or are they meeting in person?
Right now, Zoom.
Zoom. Okay.
Yeah, and it's the last Tuesday now. They've changed the day, but it's still the last Tuesday of the month. They are not having one in December, so they'll have one in January again.
So it'd be the last Tuesday in January.
Yeah.
And I need to look at my calendar for that because I have some more health issues coming up. So if I called Al or texted Al and said, I'd like to be in that Zoom meeting, you could figure out how to get me in. Would that be okay to do that? I wouldn't do that without you knowing, Chris. I would copy you on an email or whatever.
Lacey, you have a comment?
Yeah. Well, there's the link. We can send the link if you can reach out to him. But there will be a link for just anyone to join. We do have to. There can be only two of us though, right, Christina? So.
Aware of that.
So one of us can just not be there for that time. That's fine.
Okay. All right. I'll let you know if I can make that meeting because I'd like to talk with those people at least once.
It's been a very good meeting. I actually, brought up the point that we were going to go after a grant for local design guidelines, and they said that, if we did it ourselves, we would have no problem doing it. A lot of people don't go for grants, and they just do the design guidelines on their own and cobble things from, that they liked from different plans. And so if we don't get this grant, then, I feel comfortable that we can work on it ourselves, but
Okay,
yeah.
sounds good.
Okay, number 5, we're down to 5, public hearing for locally designated historic landmark nominations. So I put the Shelby Mutual on there too. So we have that set for January 22nd. I put a draft letter in your packets, and I do realize it's a long letter. I thought that there were some things that that we should include in there that property owners might want to know. So I included a little bit of information about the next state tax credit information, and then highlighted our public hearing on there so that they would see that, and then a little bit of information about us starting to prepare design guidelines. So I didn't mention anything about the grant. I mean, it doesn't matter, we're moving forward on design guidelines whether we get the grant or not. So any
So what is the purpose of the letter?
Well, purpose of the letter, first of all, is to let them know that there's a public hearing coming up, but I just felt like there was other information that we needed to update them on. So that's why it's a little bit longer than I would normally have it. But
Could the second paragraph be the first paragraph? Because that goes right to the purpose, right? And then the first paragraph be the second paragraph where you're filling in some information.
I was thinking about that, but the first paragraph kind of sets it up if they're not, because after Randy's COA and not knowing that he was part of the National Register, and I felt like we needed to tell people that, yes, you are part of the National Register. And
Well, Randy came to some of, at least one, if not two, of our public hearings when we were working on the preservation, the piece, our preservation plan. And he knew then that he was on the National Register because I talked with him.
yeah, I was kind of surprised about that, but anyway, this sets it up for anybody that, because we've got a lot of new property owners. We've got a lot of new people that are in those buildings. They may not be the property owners, but renters in the buildings too. So although this doesn't go to them, but
I just think the first paragraph's a nice introductory. It's easy, it's friendly.
Yeah, I agree. And then, the fact that you have the second paragraph, the kind of the key information bolded, it kind of says, this is what, we're getting at here. So I think that works.
Okay, thanks.
The fourth paragraph, the second to last sentence, it says the guidelines will allow us as a community to decide what is worth preserving and establish local guidelines to protect it. What's the it?
What's worth preserving?
Maybe you should say that. When I was reading, it just hit me. I thought, what is it? I couldn't refer back.
When I wrote it, I thought that too. I'm like,
yeah, I just think that, just say it again.
Okay.
And then my other comment, just not so you don't confuse people, I think that the email addresses should just be sent to one of you, probably Joe, Christina, include your email address down under your name.
Okay. That's a good point.
And then it'll just go to one person and you won't have to say, oh, I have this one, you have that one. And
okay. Is that acceptable, Joe, to send all this to you? I think that's what we normally do. Okay. Thank you.
In that, what is it, the next to the last paragraph, where we're talking about design, we're talking about local design guidelines. Are we saying here that we're doing design guidelines no matter what? If we don't get a grant, if there's no money, we're still doing it?
Do we need to put that in the
Commit
letter?
us to doing it.
I'm sorry.
It says the commission is also working on a set of local design guidelines. So we aren't working yet. We don't even have it. I mean, we've done the request for a grant, but we don't have a consultant. We're not actually working on designs now. Does this mean we're going to do them no matter what? Money or no money, we're doing these guidelines.
Right, I thought that's what we decided.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And I mean, we've done a color palette. So I mean, in some ways we've started the discussion anyway on design guidelines. I mean, Joe Thompson, what, 2 months ago, we started a list of what we thought should be in the design guidelines. So,
I don't
And
have a problem with that.
we've looked at other guidelines just to be familiar with what it's all about.
mhm.
I think
We're
it's an
committed.
ongoing process.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure we're committed,
Right.
because you're sending this out to the public and it's going to be committed. You're definitely committed then.
Oh, I think we decided that a couple of months ago.
Probably, it's probably a good thing. We need to commit ourselves to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, any other comments on the letter? I touched base with Stacy. I don't know, she emailed me back and I'm not sure I understand what she wants, but I'll figure it out. Didn't she help us send out the last letter, or somehow I remember Jessica, you and Pat involved in it.
There was a combination of addresses, and
Okay.
Jessica kept bringing them all up to date as time has gone on. Stacy should have access to those. Joe has access to them. If there's one that's missing, we need to know now. Who do we not have an address for as an owner on a building? I think we've got addresses on all of them, don't we, Jessica? Don't you have?
I think so.
Well, that
It's
was
missing.
the inventory. That
Pardon?
was an
Isn't-
inventory that we've been working on.
Yeah,
was what I was saying.
and I assume it's complete.
Well, I have to add Mary's information. I think I've got most of mine. Jessica, maybe the two of us can look at it and see if there's anybody else that needs to be added. But I think it was pretty much complete. That was my project for this weekend, just to go through and make sure we have all the addresses. So
That's basically what, 27 buildings?
yeah, well, 27 plus. Oh, and the other thing I should mention on this, the letter will be revised for the other ones that
For
aren't.
Marvin and St. Mary's.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. So I'll have to do a little bit of a revision for that. And I don't think did you last time actually address them to each person? I mean, I'd like to do that, but that's a mail merge thing that
We did not. We sent an email to council and different commissions and to the library board and to, I can't remember what the group was how they were worded at St. Mary's. We sent like an email thing. We didn't actually send a physical letter to every one of those people. But several of the ones from the library kept showing up. Those were the ones who were most active at showing up, and they were showing up as a result of emails. I remember Connie Emmett was at everything.
Well, mail merge is easy to do. If you got a database, that's not hard to do that.
Yes.
So
Can you do it from a Google spreadsheet?
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay,
We'll put it in Excel and
okay. Well, I'll work on that and I'll get it to you first thing on Monday along with letters. She was asking me if I would have copies of the letters. I'm like, well, I would have to come in to copy them, so I don't. But anyway, we'll figure all the
Yeah.
logistics of it out. Thank you. Any other comments on the letter? Okay, that should go out no later than Wednesday would be 30 days out. So it has to go out 30 days out. And I will also create another press release to go out. It'll be similar to the one I sent before, so I don't have it created yet, but it'll be the same as that one.
I
Okay.
have a question on your press releases. I keep looking in print copy and electronic, you know, the Richmond Source, the News Journal, and the Shelby Globe, and I don't always see these things in print or electronically out there. How is it that you are sending a press release, but they're not releasing them?
Well, some of them do, and some of them, don't. I mean, the Globe is really the only one that actually does.
Yeah, I think we have the same thing, Pat. Stacy sends any notice we have to every news source, and she keeps a record of the fact that she has done that. And whether they do or not, we can't control that.
Right. So does Chris send this out, or does it go through Stacy to go out?
Well,
I
I
used
can
to do
send
it
it.
directly. I used to do it on my own as an appointed official.
Right.
And they recognized me, and they would print them or do them usually. Okay. But, the new leadership in all of those groups affects how urgently they see this information. So yeah, it is. It's always been a problem. Does it really appear? Does the public really see it? Because we send it doesn't mean the public sees it.
Right. Well,
Unless it doesn't happen.
The last time we sent the press release for the public hearing, they printed it almost every day, the Daily
Yes,
Globe.
that
So,
one
I
was
mean,
a
it was
good one.
almost like, you don't need to do that much, but
Well,
maybe
but
once a week.
it does. But they don't even have that section in the Globe anymore.
Mm-mm.
That was on the front page. They
Well,
don't-
they've lost their sidebar.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
they
do.
don't follow that.
Mhm.
So now it is buried somewhere else in
Right.
the paper.
And their sidebar was always for PAs.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Maybe
Yeah.
we should maybe we should petition to get that back, because that I looked at that all the time.
That would say to me, what is something else I need to look for?
Mhm.
And they even would list the little list of obits, the names of the people for obits that were in the paper. And all of a sudden now we've gone to, here's the front page article above the fold. And then you have to look for anything else. There's not even a section later on about what's happening, meetings coming up or anything like that. There's nothing like that in the Globe anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, but I'm old fashioned. I don't want you to change that kind of thing.
Maybe they want you to go online for it, but then you have to pay extra for that. And
Not everybody does the
I
online.
already buy the paper. Why would I want to pay for online? Anyway, another conversation for another day.
I know, but I'm just saying, because you send a press release does not mean the public knows.
Well, but that's all I can do is put a press release out. I mean,
When you give it to me, I put it in our archives of what we sent out. I do that. So it's in the archives, what is getting sent.
okay.
And if I see it in print, I cut it out and put it with it.
Hey, Chris, if we're concerned about not getting the word out or whatever, what we do is just get with Mindy, and she's really good about, a lot of times she needs to do a story or something or whatever. So I'm sure she'd be happy to do that. And that way you'll definitely get it in the paper.
That's a good idea too, because I think the fact that we're putting so many, including the historic district, we're putting a lot of these landmarks. A lot of the ones on the National Register as local landmarks now. So I think the public needs to understand why we're doing it. And I will tell you too, when I usually send something that I really want to get out, I also send it to Richland Source. She covered Shelby quite a bit.
Brittany?
Brittany Shock. Brittany,
Mhm.
thank you. Yeah, if I really want something to go out, I send it to her with Richland Source, and she's good about it. I've got Zach Tuggle is another one. I mean, I've got people that I send things to, and maybe they're taking it more as story ideas than actual, PR that they need to put in the paper. I don't know, but I do send it to, several different people. So.
I'd go
Mindy
with Mindy and have her do an article.
Yeah, Mindy and David Jacobs too is another good one that I send a lot of information to, and he
In
prints.
fact,
it.
I think David, that's probably more up his alley. He does a great job of covering local activities and events and so forth.
Yeah, I'll talk to them too and get a little bit of extra PR on this, because I think people do need to understand why we're doing this. So.
Hey,
Okay. Thank you.
Christina, I'm gonna have to go.
Okay.
But I did want to say, as far as the fire station engine house, contracts have been signed. I think they're called contracts of assignment, that a new EMS services in town, Superior, I think it's Superior Air and Land or something like that.
Okay.
And so those contracts that were with community now have been assigned to them. So I should have looked it up here, but I believe it was, Joe, do you remember on the lease, it was a year by year or renewal or something, or it could be renewed if no one objects, something like that. So
I think that's what it is, yeah.
for the foreseeable future, Superior will be in that building, and they're leasing it, of course, from the city. So just that update.
Great.
But I'm gonna say I'm gonna have to sign off here, but Merry Christmas to everyone, and if we don't see you before, we'll see you next year. I don't want to rush it though. We still have a few days to December, but hope everyone has a very safe and Merry Christmas.
And to you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Thanks so much. Okay, number 6. I think we've kind of talked about that inventory. I did want to mention that on this public hearing that we're doing, it will be National Register and then the couple of other properties that have come to us and have wanted to be on there. The state, the Ohio Historical Inventory, and that's about 55 of them, not 50. It's not, when you subtract the 27 from them, it's a little bit less than that, but those are not on here right now, because if you remember, we talked about that before and decided that we kind of need to let them know that they're on that state inventory first before we pop it on them that, hey, we're going to include you in part of the local inventory. So we have some PR work to do on that too, I think, to meet with these different property owners. And we need to get a list of the property owners, because I don't think that inventory list is populated yet. So we'll start working on that after the first of the year, and probably have another public hearing. Maybe it might even be in the summer. But for the purposes of the grant and trying to get this local design guidelines done, we felt like we just needed to do the National Register first. So if my memory serves me right. Okay, so we'll work on the Ohio inventory list and then the locally designated landmark list too. So, okay, number 7, window signs. I hope you were able to open them and look at them. We're really excited. Lacey and I looked at them. The first set of designs, we were trying to kind of coordinate it with the CIC look, and even Cody said, this isn't working. It just doesn't look right. And so I actually sent him the color palettes for the historic colors. And thank you, Joe. And so that's what he came up with in this newest version. So he gave us 4, but they're pretty much the same. So we just chose 2 to show you, to make a decision on one of them, and then we can move forward. I already talked, I talked to Stan Kane with Kane Graphics, and he gave me a quote of $7.70 a piece. They are 8 inches by 12 inches. So, you know, if they put them in a storefront window, they're going to be a really nice size and visible, but not detracting from, you know, what else they might have in their storefront. I'm thinking that we need 50, so we need 29 for the National Register people. And then we will have ones for the Ohio inventory too. And then, so where it says National Register of Historic Places on these, it will be replaced with Ohio Historic Inventory or locally designated, whatever the terminology is. I always get it mixed up. Those locally designated historic landmark. So where it says National Register of Historic Places, that will be replaced for whatever property they're actually on. So on the highest level of the property. So 50 should take care of it. We might have a couple of extra ones. And then, you know, if we need to print more, then we can print more. Stan Kane can also print on demand, which was another reason that I really looked at them, because some other companies wanted you to buy a minimum of 50 and only of one design. So he can print whatever, whenever we need it. So he's very accommodating on that. And Cody did all this work for free, and I'm just so excited at what he's been able to do. I love the design. So Lacey and I have a favorite, but we want to see what you think. So input.
I like the one that has I don't know if these are number 1 or 2. I don't know what the one that has the awning on it, where the little building has the awning.
The vertical
one. That one, because originally everything on the north side of, if you want to call it the north side of Main Street, all had awnings. All those had awnings because it kept the sun from coming in their display windows, because the sun approached them from the other side. So I see that as being more historical looking than the one that looks like, I don't know, it's just,
it's the
it
bandstand.
doesn't speak to me.
Yeah, that's the second one's the bandstand. And
bandstand there.
Yeah.
Maybe if it looked more like the bandstand with the different roof on it and gave that appearance of the shape of the bandstand, maybe that I might, but as it looks there, not so much.
Yeah. Can you scroll back up, Joe? Originally he had that building as a 1-story with the awning. And I said, can you make it kind of look like the Daily Globe or any of those buildings along there, the Shaw building, any of those buildings that were 2 stories that had the big original windows, because that's really unique feature of Shelby, I think. And so that's what he came up with. And I think it's great.
I like number 1 because of the dark background. I think it shows up better, especially if it's a window cling.
Yeah, the historic landmark really pops out at you too.
Mm-hmm.
That's Lacey and my favorite too. I love the colors. I might have kind of told him that I really liked that color when I sent him the color palettes. And I actually think if you look at that, I could see a building downtown being painted those colors.
Do you remember what they on the color palette, what they named that color? It has a name on the palette.
Yeah, it was
I've forgotten.
Slate gray.
Slate gray or blue gray or military gray, something. It has a name.
It's a green, it's a teal. I think it's teal stencil. I think.
I was gonna ask Chris, because it on the screen here, it looks more of a neutral gray, and the one that you sent me was like a more of a teal. So is that just my screen maybe, or
Or
did it change?
it must be your screen too, because,
I think mine was that way too.
is it? Yeah, it's more of a teal. It is teal, it's a teal color. It's a greenish color.
I have to go back to look because when I printed it for the archives, I printed it in grayscale. So I don't know what the color actually.
I made JPEGs out of these too, like photos, and I could send those to you, but so that they might be a little more truer in color, but these are
If you
from the
want that,
PDF.
send it to me and I'll put it in the archive, but I just printed it in grayscale so as to not use up my color ink.
Okay,
It is a darker color though, so I think the darkness is represented on the screen pretty well. And I agree, I think that's gonna really stand out a little bit more on the windows.
Mhm.
So I like that for that reason.
okay.
You don't want to be able to look through these things. You don't want them to be transparent because people will just ignore them. You want it to actually be a solid color so that they go, oh, what is that? And they actually read it.
Yeah. All right, do we have a consensus on this, the first one, the vertical?
We're going to call it, we're going to call number one vertical, huh?
Yeah,
I'll throw a wrench in the cogs,
okay,
print two of them back to back, cut them apart, and they'll be smaller and easier to display. What are these 8x12 proposed? So you'd have a 6x8. I think that would be a lot easier to sell people to put in the windows.
that's a good point. When you're talking about, most of those windows downtown are gonna be big picture windows.
Mhm.
And so,
It's gonna be in the corner.
yeah,
Down in the corner, yeah.
yeah, an 8x12. Originally, I was thinking something to just put on the door. So as you walk in, you're seeing that. But that was Cody's suggestion I didn't even realize it was an 8x12 until he told me. I thought it was the smaller one that we were looking at.
8x10 or 8x12?
It's 8x12.
8x12. Sorry, got it wrong in my notes. Okay.
I mean, it can be cut down a little bit, both on the top and bottom. It can be cut down to an 8x10, but
My point was you got both alternatives, plus something that would perhaps fit on the door that might not if it was bigger.
that's true. I mean, I would have to go back and get another estimate. It would be more than the 385, I'm sure, because they're printing on both sides. But
No. It's a big sheet divided in the middle.
oh,
I don't understand.
yeah. Are you saying take the 8x12 and put two images?
When they were delivered with two designs on, you get a pair of scissors out and cut them across the middle.
Oh, like put two on one page.
Two window clings.
Are you just advocating for a choice in design by the business owner? Is that what you're suggesting?
That would be yet to be determined, but you wouldn't have to sort between these two designs, and you'd have something that would fit in a smaller space like the doorway. If you look up and down Main Street where people have decals in the window, they're likely to be beside the door where you see them when you open the door.
Mhm.
Are we talking about where these things are going to be on the, are we concerned about whether they put it on their front window or their front door or beside the front door in a window? Are we discussing where these go?
Where will the owner let you put them?
Yeah, wherever they feel is best. Joe, you're still sharing the screen. Are you meaning to
Yeah.
share that?
Hello, Joe. Hello,
Joe,
Mr.
guys?
Mr. Guys. He's away from his screen momentarily.
I've lost
Somebody
him.
else is running the
There he
meeting.
is. Okay. There he is. I just didn't know what you were sharing there, whether you meant to share it or not.
Jessica was asking me for something for her work here, and we were just
Oh.
trying to double task.
Sorry.
He's multitasking.
I know you can't always see what you have on the screen when you're sharing, you're doing that. I see your point, Joe, but I think for one thing, we want all of them to look the same. So as you're walking down the street, it's all the same image, whether it's image 1 or image,
Why do we have two designs?
to choose one so that we can choose one. And the consensus has been the vertical one, the one
Fine.
with the whatever colors it was. So, but what you're asking about is the size. Or,
Yes.
okay.
Well, do we, yeah, I guess that kind of begs the question. I don't recall if we've talked about whether we've gotten input from any of the business owners as to if the size is appropriate. Do we, is that something we'd be interested in? I mean, I feel like it's not really that big for most storefront windows, but it's kind of hard to visualize, so.
And it depends on where they want to put them.
Yeah, I think we give them all the same size, all the same print, like number 1 vertical. They're all the same, and let them decide where's the appropriate place for them to place it. We just ask or recommend that it be on the front of their building and not inside the building, but on the front, visible from the sidewalk.
Fine with me.
And you need them big enough that people can see them, that they're really visible.
Mhm.
Yeah, and actually some of the text at the bottom there, it's
Pretty
fairly
small.
proportionately, so we really have to be careful if we did go smaller. One thing I want to mention, this is kind of nitpicky, but this is from a visual standpoint, from my experience of looking at things like this. That top, the Shelby Center Historic District, that there's a little too much space or something. It needs a little tweaking optimally. I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but either text bigger or remove some of that space up top, I think.
Okay, I'll talk to him about that one. And
And
now-
then maybe you could make the bottom a little bigger.
Yeah.
yeah,
This bottom's small.
yeah, he could, because not all of them are going, 27 of them will have that Shelby Center Historic District. Now the other ones won't. The ones that are going to be for the local inventory and for the state inventory will have probably
They
not
won't have that at all. They won't
Yeah.
have that on that top of there at all.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so we're going to move forward with the first design, right?
Yeah, so by consensus, we're doing number 1, the vertical design,
Okay,
correct?
Good.
Okay.
okay, good. Brian already encumbered the money. He was going to create a PO because I think they're creating I think today's the last day that they can create a PO for the rest of the year. So as soon as as soon as I talk to Cody and we can get these finalized designs, then we should be able to go to King Graphics. So I would think by the next meeting, we'll have to figure out how to get these out to people. And we could figure that out at the next meeting, I think so. All right,
I think,
thank you.
hand deliver.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely the ones that are on the state, the Ohio Historic Inventory, especially because I just don't think they know that they're on the inventory yet. So, and there'll be a couple of homes too. We'll have to figure that one out too. Yeah. Number 8, I still have on the agenda, the educational meetings, because I don't want to forget that. we will still pursue that when we're able, when we able to meet personally, and also able to provide them a little bit of the design guideline discussion. So
Those are the breakfast meetings that we were talking about. That what that is? Okay.
yeah, the
You
Joe
remember
proposed.
back that far?
It was probably like beginning of the year, wasn't it?
It was.
To that.
I was surprised that Randy done his homework because I thought that would be an awkward, embarrassing session today if we sprung those standards on him. Tuck pointing and window restoration specifically.
I actually spent about an hour on the phone talking with him after because I was actually kind of embarrassed because I was like, I thought he knew that, you know, it was on the historic register and that he needed to go through this process. And, you know, so I think I was kind of blunt in the in the email that I sent to Joe Geis about, you know, hey, you know, there's some penalties to this. So, you know, I kind of wanted to smooth that over with him. He didn't seem to, you know, it didn't seem to bother him at all. And we actually had a great conversation, and we talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of mostly what he talked about today. But I did give him names of people. One of the guys that came and with the Heritage Ohio when we dedicated he was a very well-dressed young man, if you remember him being at the dedication of the marker. He does window restoration as well as being a stonemason. So we definitely want to, you know, to have him involved. They're actually down in Delaware right now, dismantling as much as they can from an old house that's on the I think it was Oak Grove Cemetery. It was a caretaker's house, and the city wants to tear it down. And so they asked if they could go in and take out the windows and, you know, anything else that they can sell. And this is the Delaware Historical Society that's doing it, I think, but Devin is involved as well as Julie Roll. So they're very involved in preserving what they can. And so hopefully he'll get with Randy and they'll be able to work something out. And I would love to see a window workshop in town. I know that we're going to be having some other ones, but to have one in town so that other local people can see how to restore the windows, I think would be fantastic.
A lot of our buildings lost their windows. They replaced them with something out of completely different materials. They did that with the Legends building, then some. A lot of them have lost their original windows. And I really am so glad that Randy is committed to keeping those windows and doing that. That building has, I think that's considered lot 1 on our original design of the city, the layout of the city. I think that's lot 1 of all the buildings to be an example of what to do. I think Randy's building is the perfect choice for that. So, you know, and I'm glad you found somebody with it as that young man. I didn't get a chance to talk to him very much, but I'm sure he also has a network of people who do these restoration things. And we need to plug into these people. We need these people to be plugged into us so that we can plug our owners into them.
And I do know that's one thing that Julie Roll with that Richmond Preservation Action Group. I know that she's also part of
Preservation Ohio.
Thank you, Preservation Ohio.
Preservation Ohio, right.
Yeah, and they want to put together some kind of a list too of resources that people can go to. So
yeah, that we need that. We sorely need that in this area.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've been spending many a late night on Facebook Messenger, and she'll send me link after link after link to anything and everything that I have a question on. So it's been a really good relationship to have with her. So and the other night it was like midnight, and I'm like, Julie, I have to go to bed. I'm sorry.
I hear you.
Yeah. I think we've talked about the engine house history, digitization, that's on hold still. The 59 West Main Street, that's certificate of appropriateness deadline is already passed on that one. From what I understand, it's very close to closing with new ownership. And so.
Now, that was my question. Do we actually have new owners yet with whom we can have a discussion?
Close.
Very close.
Well, close doesn't cut it yet right now. That's not, we can't do anything until it's officially done. I've been watching the transfers in the paper all the time. I read all the property transfers. I haven't seen it yet.
Very close.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. New business. We might be done a little bit earlier today. How about that? New business. We need to secure a date for the annual report to City Council. Do I go through you, Joe, on that, or how do we get on the agenda?
Just whenever meeting you want to go, just let Brian Crum know and
Brian,
put it on the agenda. Yeah, he's the clerk.
The report just gets into the packets for that meeting. And when you went the last time, did they ask you any questions about it, or it's in their packets. It's a report from our commission. That's all it is.
I think you gave the last one.
I may have done the last one. They don't usually ask questions. I'm there if they have a question. They don't usually ask a question.
Yeah.
It's just a straight report of and we are the only commission that actually does that. All the other little commissions do not do a formal report to council. And I believe our ordinance says it has to be by the end of January, I think. But February 1 meeting would be a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll figure out which one. It'll probably be the second meeting of the month, I would think, because I have a feeling there's. Obviously,
yeah, right. Yeah, I did do the one from last year. You're right. I did last year's. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I just did it chronologically. I had like a little intro paragraph. You probably have a copy of it. I sent it to you.
I
There's a
do.
little intro paragraph, and then just chronologically what
Mhm.
has happened during the year. And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're happy with that.
Chris,
Okay.
the second meeting will be on the 19th because the 18th is Martin Luther King Day.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay. I'll ask for that date, but if he, whichever one he wants. I know there's going to be others. I think Jessica usually does something for economic development, and
Yeah.
she must be on the phone.
Meetings where they are now, it's basically paperwork.
Yeah.
I used to put together the stuff that I would report to Economic and Development Committee. I used to kind of use those to draw out the stuff that I put in that annual report.
Mhm.
Simple.
Well, I don't have it on the agenda either, but so we'll have to look for a new commission member. And because Joe's term ends the end of December. So, and it will need to be someone from that's a resident of Shelby inside the city limits. So,
Well, you know what? Randy would be a perfect person if he didn't own a building. It's a conflict of interest for him because he owns a building. But
mhm.
Randy does a lot of historical research. He really does.
Well, Randy would be a good one to ask if he knows of someone.
Someone, yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that. You could do that. Reach out to Randy for a suggestion.
Mhm.
But yeah, he's he loves research. He loves research.
I found it was a really good conversation. I found out in the midst of the conversation that he did a lot of work with my dad and Seltzer Electric. We were talking about
Back then.
that too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Mhm.
Didn't know they knew each other. So
He's pretty much a jack of all trades.
yeah. Anything else?
I noticed that they're doing a lot of work on the mausoleum. Since they were locally designated and approved by council, weren't they supposed to bring us a COA before they started?
Well, let me ask about that because I do know what they're doing. right now what they're just doing is putting a tarp over to protect it over the winter.
Yeah, okay.
So I could, I could have them do a COA, but, and I should probably
It appeared to me they were
disclose,
actually working.
pardon me?
It appeared to me they were actually working on, I didn't see a tarping kind of effect. It looked to me like they were actually looking at some of those stones that some of them have holes in them.
Right.
That they were looking at how to pull a stone out and what they would put in its place was what it looked like. But maybe I was misunderstanding what I was seeing. But I know there was a whole team of people out there when I was.
Is Doug Stein still involved?
Pardon?
He was involved early on when we first asked the question, but I'm not, so I should probably disclose that I am now on the cemetery board.
Okay.
So, and I've checked with people and it's not a conflict of interest. I guess if it does, I can always recuse myself if it's a vote on something like that. But we, there's only 3 of us on the board. So,
Less than 5, huh?
yeah. So I'm gonna have to check into that because as far as I'm aware, we hired a roofing contractor to at least put a tarp over the
They
building.
were up on top.
Yeah, he made one attempt, and it was a little bit too windy, and they didn't want to, damage anything. So, and we got a survey report back from they were historic preservation architects from Detroit, actually, that gave us a report several months ago, and there's some other things that we needed to accomplish before we were able to get to the report. So that's kind of my project over Christmas break, is to break down the report and kind of start a work plan to see, and a funding plan, because this is not going to be cheap to fix. So
well, I bring it up because I drove by and there was a whole lot of workers and I had to manipulate around them. The mausoleum is close to 2 of my family grave sites, and I was trying to get to those for decorating. And I drove all around the cemetery to avoid getting anywhere near where the work was taking place. And I just made a mental note. I'm going to ask about that.
Yeah, I'll have to ask about it, because it doesn't really entail the brickwork or block work at this point. It's and yes, we have been talking to Doug Stein about that part of it and trying to figure out some of it's probably going to have to be rebuilt. Some of it, so we're trying to figure out, each one of those blocks was built on site, poured on site and built. None of the blocks are the same size. So it's not a matter of going in and buying new blocks to put in there. We're probably going to have to make them all.
And nobody knows where those forms are anymore. Those forms that were used to shape them, they're all gone.
Well, actually, we can still find some. They can make them. Some people make them.
I didn't want to take a lot of time. I just wanted to say, heads up, something's happening at the mausoleum. That's it.
Yeah, we're watching, and anything that does, when we have a plan, I will probably bring the whole plan to you and say, this is what we're doing, or have John bring the plan to you. He's still the president, John Hancock. So. All right, anything else? The reminder of the January meeting, and then next week, the public hearing on the 22nd. And then I've got city council meetings January 4th and 19th. So,
Move to adjourn.
thank you. No further discussion. The meeting's adjourned. Thank you so much. And Joe, thank you again for your time on the commission. We're going to miss you. I hope you stay involved.
Bye, Joe.
Goodbye.
If nothing else, drop in once in a while, Joe, and tease us, okay?
Yeah,
I enjoy every conversation with you. You must stop by every now and then. Just check in.
Hey, Joe,
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
before you
Merry
leave here, Joe,
Christmas.
I got something neat for you here, Joe.
Ooh,
When I was, the other night, I was sitting at home and I don't know why I get on eBay, but I just put in Shelby, Ohio.
Hmm.
And I found this postcard that said Camp Shelby. And it piqued my interest. So I got on the Globe's website, and Camp Shelby at that time was nothing more than a thing where they had the Sherman Brigade from the Civil War. They had several reunions, and it was in Jenner Grove. So of course I had to look that up.
Hmm.
And that is the area south of the auto call and so forth.
Hmm.
So there was a number of family reunions, all kinds of different things there. But then I want to show you one thing I did find that you guys all might like this. But this is when Jenner Grove went to the Beechwood subdivision.
Beechwood Park Edition.
have a date, Joe.
What's that?
You have a date.
I didn't hear you.
Date when?
Oh, this date? I think it was 1911. Yeah, 1911.
See, real estate collapsed and that didn't develop in a nice and orderly fashion.
Yeah. That is neat. So if you had $1.50 a week, you could get yourself a lot. So
Yep. Well, Jenner's Grove was a name I heard many times over my
mhm.
lifetime.
But
About
you
where
can-
my house is. Elaine came back and went over the railroad back into.
Mhm. You can look and see it's still got the old trolley line there, and plus the B&O, and that's pretty cool, I thought.
Yep.
Okie doke.
Thank you.
cool.
Merry Christmas, all.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
We'll see you in the new year.
Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and whatever else you got.
Be safe.
Absolutely. Stay healthy, people. Stay healthy.
Thank you.